will be able to be wrong without thinking there's anything wrong with you. Because that's in essence where we're going. This is what makes trading so hard. We live in a society that's completely obsessed with winning is everything. Avoid losses at all costs. Winning is everything. Avoid losses at all costs. These are very powerful belief systems. You think they're just going to go away and not assert themselves on what you do and how you behave just because you have this understanding in probabilities? Just because you might read a book or go to a conference and say, hey, you know what? This is a probabilistic environment that we're dealing in, and you got to think in odds. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. Try doing it. Because what you do is going to be a function of what you believe. And if you can't do it, it means that there are conflicting beliefs that say that, you know what? No, this is not right. I think my analysis should tell me what's going on. And even though at a conscious level you're thinking, no, that's not what this is all about, it doesn't mean that that energy isn't asserting itself on how you behave. Otherwise you wouldn't be afraid. You were at the casinos last night. How is it that if we lose, it taps us into, we've had a losing experience. It can tap us into all the accumulated negative energy, like I put yesterday, of what it means to lose in our life. Losing has a potential to tap us into all this negative emotional energy. I don't want to feel that way. Most people with, let's say, a normal psychological makeup also don't want to feel that way. We will avoid this at all costs. I don't like the feeling of what it means to be wrong, all the negative energy. Brings up all the times we're berated as kids, someone ridiculing us, teachers, coaches, whatever. So if my trading experiences have the potential to tap me in to these two belief systems, or these memories, the memories of what it means to lose and what it means to be wrong, well, you know what? I've got big problems, because you know what? If I can't lose and I can't be wrong without it resonating, negative emotional energy, there's only got one other way that I can think of to help me avoid tapping into all this, and it's through analysis. So in one sense, we're going to say, well, I'm a trader, which means I'm a risk taker. But the reality is we're using analysis to do everything to avoid tapping into the memories of losing and the memories of what it means to be wrong. And it doesn't work. What we're trying to tell you is this doesn't work. Because there isn't any analytical regimen or system that you can come up with that will guarantee that the next trade is going to work. What technical analysis does is it defines patterns. In other words, when we got the order flow, we got buys coming into the exchange, we got a flow of sells coming into the exchange. When there's an imbalance between the buys and the sells, and there's no buys, the price has to tick up. When there's an imbalance between the sells in relationship to the buys, the price has to tick down. As these price up and down, as the price ticks up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, it creates what we call collective behavior patterns. I say collective because everyone who submits an order to the exchange contributes to the pattern. And what we found is that not only can these patterns be identified, quantified, but they repeat themselves with statistical reliability over and over and over again in every time frame. You guys with me on this? Where's the problem? What? Go ahead, Tony. Oh, well, yeah. No. The problem is the patterns repeat themselves over and over again with statistical reliability. The outcomes that the patterns are predicting are random. I want you to get this. This is big. Okay? The patterns repeat themselves with statistical reliability, but the outcome that the pattern is predicting is random in relationship to the previous outcomes. There's a completely random distribution between wins and losses over a series of edges, or the criteria that define your edges. Exactly. That's right. That's how casinos make money. They're gambling on each individual. They know that's a gamble. Each individual outcome is unpredictable and unknowable. But over a series of events, the law of probabilities will work its magic. And they don't need to worry about the outcome to each individual event. So now you tell me, nobody likes tapping into the pain. No one likes tapping into the pain. And yet walk into the casino and watch people sit in front of a slot machine for hours and pump money into that machine, knowing they're going to lose. Not only knowing they're going to lose, experience losing, and why is it that they're not experiencing emotional pain? They are losing. Why aren't they experiencing emotional pain? Well, it's one at a time. Somebody raise their hand. Whatever. Go ahead. Yeah, well, let's put it this way. You say they're expecting the next one. They don't know if the next one's going to be a winner. The next one may be a winner, and the whole idea of it being fun is because they're going to be surprised if it is. But the point is, they are expecting wins and losses. As a matter of fact, if you watch somebody play slots or you experience playing slots, you know that you're going to lose more times than you win. And as long as you accept the risk, meaning, and how do you know you accept the risk? Your behavior will tell you accept the risk because you don't have any problems putting the money in the machine. See, if you couldn't accept the risk, then you would find it difficult to actually put the money in the machine. Gambling forces us to accept the risk in advance, because if we don't, we can't play. You can't sit down at a blackjack table and just decide to play and without putting your money out there first. They won't let you. But the illusion that analysis creates with trading is that I can actually get into a trade and believe that I'm not taking any risk. And if the market happens to go in my favor immediately, it's without giving any heat, it gives me, it reinforces the idea that yes, I can do this without risk. I can do this without risk. I don't have to experience this if I just find the right method. That method doesn't exist. Get it in your brain. It doesn't exist. If I had a method that produced 99% winning trades, I guarantee you, if you're risk adverse and you haven't accepted the risk, you will not make consistent money. You'll always be worried about that one time. That's why, you take a trader who, has, 9 out of 10 winning trades, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 in a row, and you're talking to other traders at conferences and chat rooms, and they'll tell you about all these winning trades that they had. They didn't tell you that the 10th trade, they lost all their winnings on the first 9 and more. They didn't tell you that. Yeah, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, yeah. And do they have to lose all their winnings from the previous 9 trades? Did it put a stop in? No. Did it define the risk in advance? No. And why didn't they define the risk in advance? Why did they not put a stop in the market? Because they thought they had a guaranteed win. It's that simple. Do you think that people could sit there and play slots for hours if there was the emotional risk? If there was the emotional risk that traders have about if they're wrong or they lose, they're going to tap into that pain. We don't enjoy that. It has to be enjoyable. The emotional risk of playing slots for most people just doesn't exist. They're enjoying themselves because they know the outcomes are random. They know they cannot, it is senseless, it would be an effort in absolute futility to think that they're going to predict what the pattern of those wheels are going to come up with on the next spin. They might not know anything about the architecture of the computer chip that generates the random outcome, but the point is, it is a purely random outcome. And when we learn that it's purely a random outcome, the whole idea of predicting or even being right or wrong is irrelevant. It doesn't apply. Does not apply. And so it takes what we're doing, the activity, out of a right or wrong context. And so I can sit there and push the button, and there's nothing to be right or wrong about because I'm not predicting the outcome. Now, that's a little bit more tricky in trading because we're using an analytical process to actually make a prediction. But what we have to do is we have to apply the principles of the law of probabilities on that prediction and say, you know what, this is a prediction, correct? Okay, I mean, this is, yes, I am making a prediction. You know, I don't have any illusions about the fact I've used this analytical process, I've come to a conclusion, I'm making a prediction, but you know what, it's still just a guess. And in that way, we're not responsible for what the market does after we put on a trade. How can we be? When you understand order flow, when you understand there is no way that I can predict the intent that other traders have after I get into a trade. There are other traders all around the world waiting to enter orders for whatever reason pops into their brain. Whatever agenda they have, whether it's commercial, whether it's contractual, whether it's hedging, or whether it's pure speculation, they have their reasons for sending a buy or a sell order to the exchange, and you know, and how big that order is. There isn't anything that we're doing from a technical or even fundamental perspective where the mathematics of our system can predict what those guys are going to do, or women, okay? There's just no way. In essence, I'd have to know who's about to send an order to the exchange, what kind of orders are going to be. Is it going to be a buy or a sell? How big is it going to be? And then with that, you could say, okay, well, you know, we've got all these buys coming in, we've got all these sells coming in, and so in this moment right here, we should get an uptick. But then again, you know, let's say in the moment there's a huge abundance of buy orders coming into the exchange that overwhelms the number of sell order inventory to take the other side of those trades, and the market starts to shoot up. But then some other trader somewhere in the world sees the opportunity to what he thinks is sell high and just slams that rally with a huge order. Now you would think, well, who could trade that big? Well, hedgers can trade that big because they're not taking the risk. They're eliminating the risk. They're already long or short. They're already what I call naturally long and short based on their business. So yeah, they can put that big of an order in the market and actually defend a price. You heard words like defending a price? This is what it means. You tell me how a mathematical equation is going to predict that. Somebody please. But that's exactly the way you trade, isn't it? Isn't that exactly the perspective in which you take? You think that this mathematical equation is going to accurately tell you every single time what the intent of all these other traders are around the world? It's just a probability game, everybody. That's it. And analysis makes us think it's something else because of the erroneous connections that we make and erroneous assumptions that we make. It's like, yeah, okay, again, I've said again, I did my analysis. I made a prediction. The prediction was absolutely correct. So the reasons why I made the prediction must be the same reasons why the market went in my favor. And that way, I knew what was going to happen. I knew what was going to happen. Making us think that the risk cannot exist. If you're trading to avoid being wrong, if you're using analysis to avoid being wrong in any capacity at all, even just the tiniest bit, if you're using analysis to avoid being wrong and avoid losing, it doesn't work. The only way you're going to make this work is to adjust the way you think, is to change your perspective, that what you're doing doesn't have anything to do with, you're going to need, your predictions have to be correct, but your reasons for making the predictions do not. In most cases, for the typical screen-based trader, most of the trades they put on, there's virtually very little correlation between the reason why the market went in their favor and the reason why they put on the trade. Very little correlation. And what do I mean by correlation? How would I find that out? I would have to be able to inventory. If I went long based on a moving average, and my moving average crossed, and I put a buy order in the market, and then 3 or 4 minutes later the market started rallying, and I'm thinking that okay, that well, I have the right reason for making this. My technical reasons must be be correct because it made the correct prediction. I would actually have to go out and determine all the traders who put buy orders in the market that actually caused my trade to become a winner, because I couldn't make my own trade become a winner. I can't trade at a level where, for an example, if and there are a lot of traders who can, a lot of traders who have strategies to do exactly this. Okay, that when they see how many bids and offers there are, at certain price levels, at certain significant reference points that they know they might be able, like I said yesterday, like stampede people out of a position or even into a position that helps them out. Okay, all they have to do, if the price is at 10, all they have to do to bid it up to 11 is just simply take out all the offers. If there's X number of offers at 11, all they got to do is hit them. That's it. And the price automatically goes to 11. Then all they have to do to get it to 12 is hit all the offers again. That's it. They're actually creating their own price movement. They know why the market's moving. They know why it's moving because they're doing it. And they are making their own trades winners because everyone who took the other side of their trade at 11, when it gets bid up to 12, is a loser. Everyone who took the other side of their trade at 12, when they bids it up to 13, is a loser. Now, this can be a dangerous strategy. You have to have a lot of capital and a lot of balls, because as their position size grows, for them to get out of that trade, what do they have to do to get out of that trade? They got to reverse everything. In other words, they have to become sellers, which means that if they have a huge position that they built, a huge long position they've built up, there has to be buy inventory for them to get out of that position. In other words, they become sellers. And if there isn't enough buy inventory for them to get out of that position, they can actually force the price right back down again. That's what they, well, hey, yeah, it's like, right. There's a very famous guru on TV, I'm not going to mention his name, but about 6 or 7 years ago, he was doing an interview on the street, as a matter of fact, and kind of bragging, actually, before he became really, really famous. And he talked about a strategy, and this is something it's probably still done. I don't watch the markets enough to really say, but it's like if you watch to see what kind of orders are flowing, the size of the orders that are flowing into the exchange towards the close. So let's say we've been in an uptrending market, and it's like retail traders who need the most confirmation. They're the most risk adverse, so they need the most confirmation that something's going to work. Okay, so to get into a trade. So this is a particular stock, for example. So they see a lot of 50 share, 100 share, 200 share orders flowing into the exchange on the close. What do they know? They know a lot of retail people are buying into the whole idea, right? So what they're going to do is, they're going to see what kind of bids and offers are lining up before the close or before the open the next morning, and he would say, hey, you know what? Depending on the stock, he might have to allocate, anywhere from $30 to $50 million to take out all of the bids. So let's say the market is slated to open right here. He might allocate $50 million or whatever it took to take out all the bids to drive the price down at the open. And not all, but many of the people that bought on the close the previous day, this was the close the previous day, they're going to think, oh my God, what did I do? They're going to start selling, okay? Their sell orders are now going to help create this downward movement because there's an imbalance between the number of the buys and the number of sells. And as soon as they start coming into the market with their sell orders, he reverses his position and starts taking the other side of those sell orders as a buyer, so he was able to get in on this trending market, for an example, at a lower price. So you just force the market lower, he gets in at a much lower price, and then the market just reverses back up again and keeps on going. This is a valid strategy that people have been using for years. I mean, this doesn't surprise anybody, does it? So it's like you got to be able to do this. You got to be able to do it. You got to be able to get yourself into an emotional state of mind, like a person who's playing a slot machine. It's like, how do I lose without feeling like a loser? Real simple. You're not losing. This business requires expenses. Now, you're laughing, but it's true. You think that's the way? You think the casinos, the board of directors and the management of the casinos, when they're looking hand by hand, they say, "Oh my God, we just lost $1,000. Oh shit, we just lost $5,000. What am I going to do here? What am I going to do?" These are expenses. The amount of money that we pay for the trade, the edges that don't work, is simply the cost of doing business to make ourselves available for the trades that do. How many people in this room have ever owned a business? When you had to buy supplies, when you had to buy pencils or office supplies, did you feel like a loser writing that check? Did it tap you into this pain? I'm such a loser? Would it even occur to you to think that way? But yet you think that way now. Why? Why do you think that way now? Come on, why do you think that way now? What? Yeah, but no, why do you think that why does the potential exist for you to experience a losing trade and tap you into the pain of what it means to be what it means to lose? Why? Yeah, because you think you know what's going to happen. You think you knew what was going to happen, and that it shouldn't be happening. Because I have an expectation. I have an expectation that is not in line with the reality of the environment that we're operating in. You're not thinking of it as an expense. I've got X number, my edge, like I said, my edge, I've tested my edge. I have a certain expectation about what the outcome would be. In other words, over a series of trades. But I don't know what the outcome is going to be on each individual trade. And it goes as far as this. It's like if I said, I'll give you an edge that has a 70% win-loss ratio. 70% winners, 30% losers. Would that imply to you that on each individual trade, there's a 70% chance of winning?
Yes.
Absolutely not. No. 100% no. There is no way to calculate. Think about this. Think about what I just said 5 minutes ago. There's no way to calculate the odds of any given individual trade working because we don't know what the intent of other traders are. If I don't know what the intent of other traders are, how in the world can I calculate the odds of any given individual trade? I can't. It's impossible. I can be ready to put on a trade where it's destined, what I mean by destined, it's destined to lose the instant I get filled. And why? Because I don't know that some big hedge fund manager is going to unload a whole half his inventory of a particular commodity or stock in the opposite direction of my order. How would I know that? That his order's coming down the pike 1 minute after I get filled. How would I know that? And if I can't know that, then how do I calculate the odds of success of that trade? I can't. That means the risk always exists. I can't even calculate the odds of success of any given individual trade. And when I do, it would, let's say, in the discretionary mode, it would be based on my experience, but in essence, I still know I'm guessing. I can say, yeah, I think this trade has a good likelihood of working out based on the pattern. And at the same time, if the pattern, whatever pattern I'm looking at, whatever's going on in the market in relationship to, let's say, news or anything else like that, I still don't know what that one individual trader might be doing or intending to do. Keep in mind that the patterns, the collective behavior patterns that give us our predictions are consistently show up over and over and over again, and they are reliable. But it only takes one trader somewhere in the world, just one trader somewhere in the world, to negate the positive outcome of that pattern. We have an expectation based on the pattern. It only takes one trader, just one, unloading a huge order within minutes or whatever after we get into our trade. That's all. Tell me how you're going to predict that. Tell me how you're going to calculate the odds of that trade working.
The average rate is by itself.
It is not a 50-50. I'm going to stop you right now. There's no way you can say it's 50-50. There's no way you can say it's 50-50. Oh, I just said that a trade could be destined to lose. There's a virtual 100% certainty that you will lose, even before you put the trade on. So how's that 50-50?
What I'm saying is that, yes, that's what you're saying is true in terms of we can't predict it, but within the context of probabilities, with the risk.
Yeah, you have to make a decision, but keep in mind these decisions. You have to expand. You have to expand your perspective. You're making you want to make this decision on a trade by trade basis. What I'm saying is that we're going to expand our definition of success from a trade by trade basis. This is trade 1, trade 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, to what I call a sample size of trades. In other words, I am not concerned with the outcome of any particular individual trade within the 20 trade sample size. What I do is trade in 20 to 25 trade sample sizes. And what I mean by that is that I'm saying to myself, I'm based on testing the particular variables that define my edge. I have found that I've got, let's say a 60-40 win-loss ratio. And we're not talking about, and how your profit in relationship to, into what your expenses. But let's just keep it at a 60-40 win-loss ratio. And so I say to myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the next 20 trades and find out what my results are. Now, I like trading in 20 to 25 trade sample sizes because what you want is you want your sample size to be large enough to adequately test your edge. You want it to be small enough so that if your edge starts deteriorating over time, because we're dealing with a fluid environment, edges can get better and edges can get worse. And you want to be able to stop your sample size so that if your edge is actually deteriorating, you can change the variables before you lose too much money. But you got to take this expanded view that I'm not trading trade by trade anymore. It's over a series of trades. And so if I like my outcome at the end of 20 trades and I look at what my outcome is, what my profits and losses are, if I like what I experience, I take another 20 trades. I do not, under any circumstances, change the variables within the sample size, because that would be trading randomly. I'd be adding random variables that will skew the results. But if I like the results, then I'll take another 20 trades. If I don't like the results, since I know exactly what I did and why I did it in every single trade, I can go back and look at my variables and say, you know what, if I tweak this, if I just take a little bit more risk on each one of these trades, I actually would have been in more winning trades and experienced more profit. Or I could even see that I might not have to take as much risk. Or if I just move my profit objectives a little bit further away or a little bit closer. In other words, you're trading, instead of trading randomly, you're trading systematically. Because you're going to learn what works and what doesn't. As long as you're adding random variables into your equation, you never learn what works and what doesn't. You will over a period of time. It might take you 5 years or 10 years or whatever, but you can cut that learning curve back, real quick. Just stop trading randomly.
Well, that is that your variables may not change, but all the things that you're betting on or you're investing on, those variables are changing. So
That's why we trade a limited sample size. That's exactly why. You're right.
what do you do when things are going bad? You could have got 12 or 20 wins. The next sample size that you're running might only have 8 out of 20 wins. Now, is that statistically significant or not?
I think so, yeah. I think that usually between 20 and 25 trades, if it isn't working, I'll change the variables. Same thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when you expand your definition of success from trade by trade to a series of trades, then the outcome, you become detached from the outcome of each individual trade. It doesn't matter. What I'm concerned about is my end result at the end of the sample size. Because the most important part of this, once you have your variables that define your edge, the most important part of after that is being able to execute. Can I execute flawlessly? In other words, can I get into these trades exactly when my edge says to get in? Or am I going to get in late because I think, oh, I don't really think this is one's going to work. Now, and then it starts to work, and next thing you know, I'm chasing the market. Or am I going to get in too soon because, the last time, it's like, the market didn't really come down and hit my price, and I missed out on a trade, so I'm going to get in beforehand, and it turns out not to work. It's like all these ways that we can make errors deteriorate my results. Because I know there isn't one person in this room who hasn't seen the possibilities of being able to execute an edge over a series of trades and not have more money. And if the only reason why you don't is because you're not executing your edge properly. Because look what happens when we're trading with fear. See, this can only be done in a carefree state of mind. I can't care about the results. It can't matter. And if it doesn't matter, then I can get in exactly when I need to get in. I can get out when I exactly need to get out based on the tested variables that define that edge. And then I can experience the true potential, profit potential that edge has built into it. I can then experience the true profit potential that edge has built into it. The same way a casino does. Casinos execute flawlessly. Do they not? I'm not saying dealers don't make mistakes once in a while, but for the most part, casinos execute flawlessly. As traders, we can't execute flawlessly because, why? We think we know what's going to happen. And if we think we know, it's because we think we can know. We think we know, and we think we know because we think we can know. Once you start getting it firmly implanted in your mind, it isn't even necessary to know for you to be consistently successful in this business. You'll start letting the idea go. Go ahead.
Like the new book, or is that some of the older things you reinforce?
Both. Taught both, definitely in Trading in the Zone, Discipline Trader, and reinforced and taught in different ways in the new book, yeah. But you can see, it's like a lot of people in this room have been trading in the zone. Am I saying anything you haven't read?
No.
And yet it's still like, it's still like resonating like, this is getting too real. This is just getting a little too real. Yet you've already read it. Go ahead.
The reinforcement of this is helping you understand why instead of crazy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the whole idea of trying to figure out why you're wrong with mathematical equations or even fundamental analysis is such an effort and futility. It's when you really understand order flow, it falls into the category of being absurd. Because until we can find out who placed the orders and why they did it, we'll never know. I'm not saying some people don't know or some people can't find out. I'm saying as typical screen-based traders, it is completely out of the realm of our reality.
I'm a 26-year owner.
Oh, what?
A 26-year registered nurse.
Okay.
And if I have a patient with diabetes and the blood sugar is not stabilized, someone comes back to me and says, Vic, what is going on with this person? And I say, well, she's diabetic. Instead of eating a piece of watermelon, she ate the whole dang thing. I can give you a reason for that outcome. And it just feels so good to be released from having to have a reason for the outcome.
Yeah.
Just follow the methodology.
Right. You see, this is something, you hear what you just said? Have you not read that over and over again or heard that over and over again?
In your books.
No, not just in my books, but just even other places, right? And yet, now it's sinking in, right? Okay. See, everyone is a certain psychological distance away from not only, one, being aware of these concepts, two, understanding these concepts, three, embracing these concepts, and then actually assimilating these concepts at a core level of their identity so that they become a part of their personality. And it usually happens in stages. It doesn't have to. All of us have probably, had experiences where we made, seismic shifts in our perspective instantaneously. It can happen instantaneously. It really can. When people have like an epiphany, it's just like they're a different person from one moment to the next. Changing is not a function of time, by the way. We usually think that it is because if we want to change, we're gonna usually employ some sort of technique, and technique implies, doing something over a period of time or a process. It's not a function of time at all. It's a function of desire. It's simply a function of actually focus, clarity, and desire. In other words, once you're really genuinely clear about how you want to change, and that clarity is sincere and resolute, and depending on the degree of desire, the change can happen instantaneously. Unfortunately, as traders, we get the idea, once we get the idea implanted in our brain that analysis can take away the risk, these beliefs become so entrenched and so powerful that it takes having to lose fortunes several times over and really painful experiences to finally come to the conclusion or the awareness that, this isn't working. That's the common thread that you hear everyone that's broken through that threshold tell you about. What I'm here to say is that it doesn't have to be that way. You can make these changes in your perspective at a conscious level. You can take control of this process, and you don't need pain to have to go through it, or to even prompt you to do it for that point, for that matter.
So analysis can't overcome the risk.
No. No. It can't do anything with respect to the risk. No. Yeah, analysis, yes. Managing the risk is different than accepting the risk. I'm talking about accepting the risk from a psychological perspective. Yeah, we use analysis to manage, position size and how far we're going to let the market go against our position to tell us that the trade isn't working, or it isn't worth spending any more money to find out. With respect to the, the profit objective, yes. What I'm saying is accepting the risk at a core level where it essentially doesn't. I'm not really confusing guys if I say it that way. That it doesn't matter. When you can get in and out of a trade without it resonating the slightest bit of emotional discomfort, no matter what the outcome. That's accepting the risk. You can get in and out of a trade regardless of the outcome without it resonating the slightest bit of emotional discomfort. Do you understand the distinction, the difference? People sit at a slot machine for hours, and they win and they lose without it resonating the slightest bit of emotional discomfort. They're having fun. They're losing and having fun. And it's only because of their perspective. Because they don't define what they're doing as losing. They're spending money to have fun. And for the possibility that, they're going to get surprised and get money. This isn't any different. It really isn't. The order flow has the same impact on price movement as a random chip generator in a slot machine. And if anybody disagrees with that, tell me how and prove otherwise.
Are you also saying like assimilating these concepts where they become core to our personality? This extends beyond our trading life.
You could, when I answered somebody's question yesterday about why people didn't do the exercise, I answered that question within that context, and I was actually sorry that I did. Yes, you're right. Because what ends up happening is that once we realize we can take conscious control of what we believe and how we experience our lives in trading, what's going to stop us from doing it in other parts of our life? And it's not a matter of what's going to stop us. It's like then we don't. A lot of our excuses start to melt away. And that can be pretty scary. The way I should have answered the question yesterday was that I didn't explain it well enough in Trading in the Zone. The reason why people didn't do the exercise, I really didn't. I didn't know that I didn't explain it well enough until I started in that same, that same material for this third book. And it's like, and then I started really breaking down my assumptions about what other people understood and how they were going to relate to this material. And then it's like it all hit me like, well, no wonder why they're not doing it. I didn't explain it well enough. Go ahead.
If I'm understanding it correctly, there's no motivation for a gain. There's no motivation for pain.
I don't know where you're getting this idea of no motivation, but you're going to have to... The words you use, see, here's the problem. I'm sorry that I interrupt you, but the problem is that the words you use are important. Okay? And it's like they imply certain concepts and principles that you're operating out of. So when you use the word motivation, it's like it implies to me that somehow or another what I'm saying is impacting your motivation to do one thing or another. And it has nothing to do, but anyway, go ahead. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
But my motivation, right? So I'm either motivated to gain money.
Why are you trading?
Because I love the journey. I love to.
And you say, yeah, no. See, you say to make money, but that isn't the case with everybody. Why? You know, it's like, see, the problem for me to answer that question is that okay. Problem for me to answer that question is that we have to go into a lot more depth. It just isn't that simple. It just isn't that simple for me to say it just within the context in which you asked me. And I don't want to really say anything that's, okay, so.